and welcome to the Fantasy Back Porch Hour. We are Sleeves, the Fantasy Alchemist. We'll explain later. I am Bear. He is Outlaw. Let's do it.
Well, today we're introducing those who don't play fantasy football into fantasy football. Those who want to join, we're going to go over the three main types of plays that you can do. The three main types of leagues you can play.
Okay.
First one is your standard league. Well, why don't you explain the standard league for everybody?
Well, in a standard league, what you're looking at is basically when you do your fantasy draft, you're going to have, for your starters, one quarterback, two running backs, two wide receivers, one tight end, one flex player, which will be explained later, one kicker, and one team defense, which also serves as your special teams, kickoff returns, punt returns, and such. In a standard league, you get scoring based on just straight up yardage.
10 yards rushing, 10 yards receiving.
So for your quarterback, basically every 25 yards that he passes will earn you 1 point. For your running back, every 10 yards he rushes for and any 10 receiving yards he gets will earn you 1 point. Your receivers, same thing. Tight end, same thing. You go into your flex position, you can play either a running back, wide receiver, or a tight end in that position. When you get down to your kicker, you will earn 1 point for every extra point kicked successfully, 3 points for a field goal, 4 points for a field goal over 40 yards, 5 points for a field goal over 50 yards.
Okay.
Your defensive scoring is going to work. You're going to start with 10 points for your defense. Your defense can either lose points or gain points based on how they perform. The more points the offense scores against your defense, they're going to lose points in increments from, say, if they give up 0 to 3 points, they will stay at 10. If they give up, 4, which is incredibly rare to see, but 4 to, say, 9 points, they lose a certain amount based on, whatever website you're playing your standard league in. Up to, once they give up, say, 35 points, now they're going negative.
Right. Yep. You can lose points. Defense can lose you points.
Right.
Your defense.
However, your defense can also gain you points because for every interception they come up with, you gain 2 points. For every fumble they force and recover, they will gain you 2 points. If one of those is returned for a touchdown, you will gain 6 points. You will also gain 1 point for every sack. So a good defense can be good for you in scoring. However, you can't put too much value on them.
Right.
But that will be expanded on later.
So that's pretty much your standard league. That's pretty much the way all basic leagues start off with.
Right.
There's another type of league which I think is more fun to play. It's called a PPR league.
It is fun. Way more fun.
Yeah. Bear, why don't you explain to the people what a PPR league means?
A PPR league, PPR stands for points per reception. It's pretty much based on what Outlaw explained, except, and usually it's a 1 point per reception. Sometimes they do half points, sometimes they do quarter points, which is ridiculous. To me, it should be either half or 1. We do 1 in ours. That means that anytime a running back, wide receiver, tight end, or even if, God forbid, you're doing the Wildcat, which the Dolphins rocked a few years ago, but anybody that catches the ball, doesn't matter who throws it, if somebody receives the ball, they get a point. And therefore, you get a point if that player is on your team. They may only go for a yard, but hey, you know what? You get a point for that reception. It could be 70-yard touchdown. You still get an additional point for that single reception. And that makes it a lot more interesting. It also affects, and we'll get to this later, but it affects the way you should draft your running backs.
Yep.
Without a doubt.
And some wide receivers.
And some. Definitely. Because, you could have some guy that, he might catch 10 balls in a game. And, okay, but he might only have 30 yards. But you know what? You get a point per reception. My man just scored you 13 points.
Exactly. And it kind of balances out the weight of wide receivers compared to the running backs.
It does.
Without doubt. Oh, yeah.
In a standard league, running backs are generally the most points that you're going to get.
Oh, without it.
Between them and quarterback. And it makes the wide receiver tight end position a more valuable position.
It does.
Now, the other type of league you can play in is called what's called a keeper league. Basically, you get to keep X amount of players from year to year.
Which the keeper league can be run in either format.
Yeah, it can.
But you should still run it PPR.
Exactly. When you're comfortable with fantasy football, or you start learning it and you become an expert at it in your own mind, you definitely need to go PPR and definitely need to go keeper league.
Yeah.
Now, the trick to
Oh, yeah.
running a successful keeper league is you need to have, how many people in your league, 10, 12, whatever, to play year in and year out. It's okay, you can still replace them, but you need to have a good core group of players that pay
I agree.
attention.
I'm sorry to interrupt, but when you start your fantasy league, it's a lot more fun. It will be a lot more successful, and it will last a lot longer if you start at least, if you're doing it, I don't know, you should never do 8-man as far as I'm concerned, but if you do a 10 or you do a 12, try and get, you and 9 or you and 11 people that you know are interested in it. Even if you're just starting, people that are huge football fans.
Yep.
That, hey, this is great. It makes every game that's going to happen on that Sunday or Monday, it's going to make it, or Thursday, it's going to make it interesting. You might not have anybody that's playing, but you know what? Or you might even care about the team, I'm sorry. But you may have someone that plays on that Thursday night or that Monday night. Or your opponent might.
It makes you pay attention, which is just fun. And then you can get together and have a good time.
Exactly.
Joke, a lot of trash talking.
Sadly, this year, Jets-Raiders might be a game that you're interested in.
Yeah, because
otherwise, you're not going to be.
Yeah,
if you have
Even
Darren
if you're a
McFadden,
Jets-Raiders fan,
Exactly.
you're not going to be
Watch the
interested.
Now,
But this can change it.
yeah, and the other beautiful thing about keeper leagues is not only like with the standard league and PPR league, when you make trades, that's for this year, for right now.
Right.
And you generally have to make equal player value in those trades.
Well, hopefully.
Well, generally speaking. Otherwise, hopefully you avoid it.
Yeah.
But in a keeper league, you can trade future draft picks, which is a beautiful thing. You can trade X player for Y player, that
Right.
could be unbalanced, but if I throw, a third-round draft pick for the next season, that
Exactly.
makes it more valuable.
Yeah.
So that's a beautiful thing about the keeper league. And the other thing, the way the keeper league works is, let's say you keep, generally speaking, you keep 2 players. That's a pretty average.
Usually shoot.
right.
That's pretty average.
You never want to do a 1 because if God forbid he gets hurt in preseason, then
Yeah.
the whole keeper league concept is gone for you.
And if you do 5, then you're keeping
Oh,
the
that's
whole
ridiculous.
team, and then it's the same guys.
Yeah,
doing it all year.
it's too many people. It's too many people out of the draft pool.
Exactly.
Right.
And 3, even I know it's going to sound silly, but even 3 is too many.
3 is too many.
Yeah,
2 is
two
too
Two is the
many.
perfect number.
Yeah,
There should never be more than 2, and there should never be less than 2.
Exactly.
2 is your number for keeper league.
And then the way the keeper league works from year to year is, let's say, I'm going to use my team as an example. I have
Okay.
Adrian Peterson and Ray Rice.
Okay.
Of course, I'm keeping Adrian Peterson and Ray Rice. Now, Ray Rice was last year because Adrian Peterson was hurt. Ray Rice was a first-round draft pick. Adrian Peterson was a third-round draft pick.
Okay.
So this year in the draft, my very first pick is Ray Rice, and my third pick is Adrian Peterson because that's
Okay.
where they were drafted the year previous.
Right.
Now, if I keep those guys another year, Ray Rice, of course, will still stay at number 1 because he can't move up.
Right.
Adrian Peterson will no longer be a third. He'll be my second.
Right. And after that, he cannot move higher if you keep Rice.
Right.
But if you were to drop Rice,
Then Adrian Peterson will move up.
Yeah.
So when you draft the guy the first year, the very next year he gets in the same draft position. But if you keep him consecutive years after that, the draft position increases from that point
Unless,
on.
like we just said,
Right.
you can't go higher.
The only other exception is if you keep someone that's not drafted. For example, this year we had Alfred Morris and Colin Kaepernick.
Yeah.
Neither of them were drafted the year before.
Right.
They take up your very last round pick.
Right.
And basically,
Whether
Yeah.
that be 15, 16, whatever it is.
Exactly.
It's the
Randall Cobb.
bottom pick.
Randall Cobb.
So if you choose to keep somebody picked up in free agency after you do your initial draft, even if you pick them up in week 1, if you keep them next year, it's a last round pick.
Correct.
And those are basically the 3 different styles of fantasy football.
Exactly. Yeah, they are.
One
And
thing
that's
that I want to expand on, speaking about scoring,
Mhm.
is a fractional scoring. Whereas what I've already mentioned is that, for instance, your running backs, and it'll be the same for running backs, receivers, tight ends. Every 10 yards gets you a point. When you go into fractional scoring in a private league, now what you get is every 1 yard gets you a tenth of a point. And for your quarterback, every yard gets you a quarter of a point.
And that makes a big difference in the final score.
It does.
Absolutely, and you run a very, very slim risk of tying in a game.
Right. And it does make a difference when, your running back has 89 yards, my running back has 82 yards.
Right.
In standard scoring, we both get 8 points.
Yep.
But those 7-yard difference could be a difference between a first down and keeping that drive going or failing. So 8.9 points
I
means
think
a lot more than 8.2.
what's even a better example is your running back ran for 90, mine ran for 89.
Yeah.
You get 9 points and I get 8. Shouldn't happen that way.
No.
Yeah.
But in fractional scoring, you get 9 or 8.9.
And then 8.9.
And that
And
is
that
definitely
keeps
the
the
way to
game
go.
closer.
Yeah.
And almost makes a tie impossible.
If not impossible.
Well, it's always possible. It's math. Anything's possible, but almost impossible.
And those are your basic 3 styles of fantasy football
And your scoring options.
and your
Yeah.
scoring options.